Storytime.
Hey,
Hi, Jonathan.
hello Katie, how are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. How are you?
Okay, not bad.
Hello.
Jenny, you're all bright today.
Yeah, I haven't switched on my my night light yet.
You have a good day, Katie?
Yeah. Some stressful meetings.
It's story time now anyway.
Not exactly the most restful story, though.
Pardon?
Quite exciting.
Yeah, it's a good book, this one. Yeah, I'm really following it. It's been a while since it's been a while since I've really listened or read a lot of Terry Pratchett, so I do like them.
Yeah.
I'm getting vaccinated on Friday.
Ooh. First or second?
First. Was supposed to be, I had an appointment for tomorrow night, but then they were going to give me the place where I booked into were doing AstraZeneca. I did some sleuthing and rang them up and asked them, so I've cancelled those ones and managed to find a different place that was doing the Pfizer vaccine, just because I'm picky and like that. So yeah, should be pleased. I feel a bit apprehensive about it. I don't know. It all seems a bit surreal, but I'll be glad when I finally have it. Yeah.
I hope you're okay.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be fine. I think the Pfizer vaccine, it's the second one which gets you. The AstraZeneca, it's the first one that makes you like sick or side effects, but it's the second one for the Pfizer vaccine. But I'm sure I'll be fine.
I don't wanna get your vaccine, but I was so sick after the second one. Like I was really not well. But only for a day, and then I had the BioNTech Pfizer as well, but only for a day, and then it was all fine again. But for a day I felt so fucking lousy, like shivers, fever, muscle aches, the full shebang. And so get ready for your for your second vaccine, like do shopping beforehand and stuff. But after a day it was all over, and it's still better than getting COVID. So would do it again and again and again if I had to. Yay, vaccine.
You're looking great, Lyric. I
Doing
love
your
the
hair
colours
again.
up top with your hair.
Thank you. No, I didn't, Jonathan. It's just a light right now.
Oh wow, yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah, the light makes a wild difference.
Yeah, like an aquamarine or something. Now I didn't realize it was so bright.
It looks way more green usually. Like this is the most blue it usually looks. But yes, thank you, Katie. It is very lightweight because it is fucking hot here again today. I'm more of a winter person than an unreasonably warm person.
How warm is it? How warm?
It's like 25 today, which is like manageable warm, but the past 2 days were 30 degrees and it was way too fucking hot.
Wow, wasn't it like a couple of months ago, -30 where you are, something like that?
Oh,
-20.
it wasn't even a couple months ago. We had like a -20 something day in April.
Wow, that's a big change. -20 to is that centigrade? Yeah, it must be centigrade as well. Shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun living here.
Hey, Peanut.
Hey.
How is everyone?
I am tired but good. I was very productive today.
Woo! Well done.
Thanks. I feel like all my things to do this week are different kinds of large chunks of reading. So I'm trying to mesh the like boring studying reading with the fun reading and alternate days of what I'm doing what. Turning to mesh. How about you? How about everybody else?
You know what's exciting? Because we live in a COVID hotspot, the vaccination program's like slightly faster than in other areas. So mine's on the 5th.
Yay!
Hey,
And Alan's is at the same time, which is very convenient.
I'm getting mine on Friday. So hooray for vaccines.
Exciting.
I'm still in the lowest priority group. Yay!
How old are you, Katie, if you don't mind me asking?
29.
29.
I'm going on Monday. Oh, hello there.
Oh, hello.
Hi. Jen's 29, but she's got hers on the 4th. Maybe because Neville's already 30 and they're booking people in the same households at the same time. So if Nick's older than you, then maybe those will be soon.
I like that they're doing same house at the same time. That makes sense.
Oh, no, it's wrong. I'm 35 and I should be getting it before Jen. It's not right.
Jen's only getting it the day before us.
It's not how the queue system works, okay?
I couldn't
mine
go
went
on the
before
4th
my
anyway.
sisters. Yeah. Sorry, Katie?
I'm going on holiday, so I couldn't get it then anyway.
Where are you going on holiday?
Ireland to see Duncan.
Yay.
Oh, how lovely!
Ah.
How lovely!
I am very excited.
Yeah, oh, I bet.
Aw.
Will you give each other whatever level of remote or real hugs you are giving from us also?
Yes.
That would be nice and good.
Can you whisper story time together and send us a video?
No, because there's no internet.
Oh,
Ah.
oh.
It's a proper holiday. Proper holidays don't have internet.
You could record it and send it once you're back.
That is true. Like a postcard.
Yes.
How about this then, eh? Folks,
Okay.
look what Zach has brought me. It's chocolate covered strawberry in a tiny cup.
Can you eat it as if you are Kaylee in Firefly?
I can't do that level of excitement, so possibly no. You might not have seen Firefly.
I have, but many
Yeah.
moons ago. Give me a what tone am I going for here? Give me some.
This is
You're going for strawberries don't really exist unless you're super rich. So if you get a strawberry, you have to savor it to the max.
Yes,
Okay.
rare delicacy vibes.
Okay.
I'm so glad this is going to be recorded.
Mm. 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 That's so delicious. That's so delicious. You were a little quiet while you did that, and it didn't appear on my screen. And so probably won't appear on catch-up screens. It will.
Mm.
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 Mm-hmm. Strawberries. 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 Cool. How is everyone?
Goddamn delight to watch.
That was a good fucking strawberry.
Mm-hmm.
That was only a little bit acting.
Mm.
What a very sensual thumb lick that was.
Rockin'.
Salutations.
Hello.
I was just time for the thumb lick.
Yeah. You want to do it again a bit closer to the camera? Congratulations tonight, everyone. Tonight is an unexpected saucy time.
Isn't it?
Dog!
Dog!
Dog! Dog!
I don't.
Little baby. Little fussy baby.
Rizzo.
So Rizzo spent the day running in and out of rhododendron bushes in the park. He loves that shit. It's very difficult to see him. And we just need to keep walking until he realizes he's been abandoned.
Oh,
Yeah, how to do that, Pablo?
what a perfect, precious baby.
He is.
Ah,
Yeah, I fell
perfect.
asleep with him on the rug this afternoon, like spooning, and then only woke up because Bracken was yelling for me in the next room. I was giving you your dinner. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yelling angrily and giving him his dinner like a good spouse. Fuck
You
Oh,
folks.
yo.
Oh, you folks.
Storytime.
Yeah.
Yay. Yay. Music.
Oh, it's my dad.
Mute. It works. Okay. I love you. I cherish you above all things.
Love you too.
Now, everybody, and that's everybody. I've been very slack about saying hello to people recently. I'm sorry. I love and cherish each and every one of you individually and all throughout the day and night. Now, that having been said, are you sitting comfortably? And I'll begin. Lord Winder was, thought Vetinari, impressively paranoid. He'd even put a guard on the top of the whiskey distillery that overlooked the palace grounds. 2 guards, in fact. One of them was clearly visible as you rose over the parapet, but the other was lurking in the shadows by the chimneys. The late Honourable John Bleedwell had spotted only the first one. Vetinari watched impassively as the young man was dragged away. If you were an assassin, being killed in the pursuit of your craft was all part of the job, albeit the last part. You couldn't complain, and it meant there was only one guard now, the other one taking Bleedwell, who had lived up to his name, downstairs. Bleedwell had worn black. Assassins always did. Black was cool, and besides, it was the rules. But only in a dark cellar at midnight was black a sensible colour. Elsewhere, Vetinari preferred dark green or shades of dark grey. With the right colouring and the right stance, you vanished. People's eyes would help you vanish. They erased you from their vision. They fitted you into the background. Of course, he'd be expelled from the guild if caught wearing such clothing. He'd reasoned that this was much better than being expelled from the land of the upright and breathing. He'd rather not be cool than be cold. The guard, 3 feet away, lit a cigarette with no consideration for other people. What a genius Lord Winstanley Greville Pipe had been. What an observer. Havelock would love to have met him, or even to have visited his grave, but apparently that was inside a tiger somewhere, which, to Greville Pipe's gratified astonishment, he hadn't spotted until it was too late. Vetinari had done him a private honour, though. He had hunted down and melted the engraver's plates of Some Observations on the Art of Invisibility. He tracked down the other 4 extant copies too, but had felt unable to burn them. Instead, he'd had the slim volumes bound together inside the cover of Anecdotes of the Great Accountants, Volume 3. He felt that Lord Winstanley Greville Pipe would rather appreciate that. Vetinari lay comfortably on the lead of the roof, patient as a cat, and watched the palace grounds below. Vimes lay face down on a table in the watch-house, wincing occasionally. "Please hold still," said Dr. Lorne. "I've nearly finished. I suppose you'd laugh if I told you to take it easy." "Ha, ha, oh. It's only a flesh wound, but you ought to get some rest." "Ha, ha. You've got a busy night ahead of you. So have I suspect." "We should be okay if we've got the barricades all the way to Easy Street," said Vimes, and was aware of a telling silence. He sat up on the table that Lorne was using as a bench. "We have got them to Easy Street, haven't we?" he demanded. "The last I heard, yes," said the doctor. "The last you heard?" "Well, technically no," said Lorne. "It's all getting bigger, John. The actual last I heard was someone saying, 'Why stop at Easy Street?'" "Oh, good grief." "Yes, I thought so too." Vimes dragged his breeches up, fastened his belt, and limped out into the road, and also into an argument. There was Rosie Palm and Sandra and Red Shoe and half a dozen others sitting around another table in the middle of the street. As Vimes stepped out into the evening, a plaintive voice said, "You cannot fight for reasonably priced love." "You can if you want me and the rest of the girls on board," said Rosie. "Free is not a word we wish to see used in these circumstances." "Oh, very well," said Reg, making a note on a clipboard. "We're all happy with truth, justice, and freedom, are we? And better sewers." This was the voice of Mrs. Rutherford. "And something done about the rats." "I think we should be thinking about higher things, Comrade Mrs. Rutherford," said Reg. "I am not a comrade, Mr. Shoe, and nor is Mr. Rutherford," said Mrs. Rutherford. "We've always kept ourselves to ourselves, haven't we, Sydney?" "I've got a question," said someone in the crowd of onlookers. "Harry Supple's my name. Got a shoe shop in New Cobblers." Reg seized on this as an opportunity to avoid talking to Mrs. Rutherford. Revolutionaries should not have to meet someone like Mrs. Rutherford on their first day. "Yes, Comrade Supple," he said. "Nor are we boy-joys," said Mrs. Rutherford, not willing to let things go. "Bourgeoisie," said Reg. "Our manifesto refers to bourgeoisie. That's like bour, schwa, z. Bourgeoisie. Bourgeoisie," said Mrs. Rutherford, turning the word over on her tongue. That doesn't sound too bad. What sort of thing do they do? Anyway, it says here in Article 7 of this here list, Mr. Supple ploughed on. People's Declaration of the Glorious 24th of May, said Reg. Yeah, right. Well, it says we'll seize hold of the means of production, sort of thing. So what I want to know is, how does that work out regarding my shoe shop? I mean, I'm in it anyway, right? It's not like there's room for more than me and my lad Garbut and maybe one customer. In the dark, Vimes smiled. Reg could never see stuff coming. But after the revolution, all property will be held in common by the people. That is, it'll belong to you, but also to everyone else, you see? Comrade Supple looked puzzled. But I'll be the one making the shoes. Of course. But everything will belong to the people. So, who's going to pay for the shoes? Said Mr. Supple. Everyone will pay a reasonable price for their shoes, and you won't be guilty of living off the sweat of the common worker, said Reg shortly. Now, you mean the cows? Said Supple. What? Well, there's only the cows and the lads at the tannery, and frankly, all they do is stand in a field all day. Well, not the tannery boys, obviously, but look, said Reg, everything will belong to the people and everyone will be better off. Do you understand? The shoemaker's frown grew deeper. He wasn't certain if he was part of the people. I just thought we didn't want soldiers down our street and mobs and all that lot, he said. Reg had a hunted look. He made a dive for safety. Well, at least we could agree on truth, freedom and justice, yes? There was a chorus of nods. Everyone wanted those. They didn't cost anything. A match flared in the dark, and they turned to see Vimes light a cigar. You'd like freedom, truth and justice, wouldn't you, Comrade Sergeant? Said Reg encouragingly. I'd like a hard-boiled egg, said Vimes, shaking the match out. There was some nervous laughter, but Reg looked offended. In the circumstances, Sergeant, I think we should set our sights a little higher. Well, yes, we could, said Vimes, coming down the steps. He glanced at the sheets of paper in front of Reg. The man cared. He really did. And he was serious. He really was. But, well, Reg, tomorrow the sun will come up again. And I'm pretty sure that whatever happens, we won't have found freedom and there won't be a whole lot of justice, and I'm damn sure we won't have found truth. But it's just possible that I might get a hard-boiled egg. What's this all about, Reg? The People's Republic of Treacle Mine Road, said Reg proudly. We are forming a government. Oh, good, said Vimes. Another one. Just what we need. Now, does any one of you know where my damn barricades have gone? Hello, Mr. Keel, said a glutinous voice. He looked down beside him. There, still wearing his hugely oversized coat, but now with the addition of a helmet much too large for him, was Nobby Nobbs. How did you get there, Nobby? My mum says I'm insidious, said Nobby, grinning. A concertina sleeve rose to the vicinity of Nobby's head, and Vimes realised that somewhere in there was a salute. She's right, said Vimes. So, where? I'm an acting constable now, Sarge, said Nobby. Mr. Colon said so. Gave me a spare helmet. I'm carving myself a badge out of What's that? Like waxy, kind of like candles, but you can't eat it. Soap, Nobby. Remember the word. Right, Sarge. Then I'm going to carve up. Where have the barricades gone, Nobby? That'll cost. I am your sergeant, Nobby. We are not in a financial relationship. Tell me where the bloody barricades are. Probably nearly to Short Street, Sarge. It's all got a bit metaphysical, Sarge. Major Clive Mountjoy Standfast stared blankly at the map in front of him, trying to find some comfort. He was, tonight, the senior officer in the field. The commanders had gone to the palace for some party or other, and he was in charge. Vimes had conceded that the city's regiments had quite a few officers who weren't fools. Admittedly, they got fewer the higher you went, but by accident or design, every army needs, in key if unglamorous posts, men who can reason and make lists and arrange for provisions and baggage wagons and, in general, have an attention span greater than a duck. It's their job to actually run things, leaving the commanding officer free to concentrate on higher matters. And the Major was indeed not a fool, even though he looked like one. He was idealistic and thought of his men as jolly good chaps, despite the occasional evidence to the contrary, and on the whole he did the best he could with the moderate intelligence at his disposal. When he was a boy, he'd read books about great military campaigns and visited the museums and looked with patriotic pride at the paintings of famous cavalry charges, last stands and glorious victories. It had come as rather a shock when he later began to participate in some of these, to find that the painters had unaccountably left out the intestines. Perhaps they just weren't very good at them. The Major hated the map. It was the map of a city. A city wasn't a place for cavalry, for heaven's sakes. Of course there had been casualties among the men. 3 of them had been deaths. Even a cavalry helmet is not a lot of use against a ballistic cobblestone. And a trooper had been pulled off his horse in Dolly Sisters and bluntly mobbed to death. And that was tragic and terrible and, unfortunately, inevitable, once fools had decided to use cavalry in a city with as many alleys as Ankh-Morpork. The Major didn't think of his superiors as fools, of course, since it would follow that everyone who obeyed them was a fool. He used the term unwise and felt worried when he used it. As for the rest of the casualties, 3 of them had been men knocked senseless by riding into hanging shop signs while pursuing, well, people when it came down to it, because with the smoke and darkness, who could tell who the real enemy was? The idiots had apparently assumed that anyone running away was the enemy. And they'd been the luckier idiots, because men who rode their horses into dark alleys, which twisted this way and that and got narrower and narrower, and then realised that it had all gone quiet and their horse couldn't turn round, well, they were men who learned how fast a man could run in cavalry boots. He totted up the reports. Broken bones, bruises, 1 man suffering from friendly stab from a comrade's sabre. He looked across the makeshift table at Captain Tom Wrangle of Lord Salachi's light infantry, who glanced up from his own paperwork and gave him a weak smile. They'd been at school together, and Wrangle, the Major knew, was a lot brighter than him. "What's it look like to you, Tom?" said the Major. "We've lost nearly 80 men," said the Captain. "What? That's terrible." "Oh, about 60 of them are deserters, as far as I can see. You tend to get that in this sort of mess. Some have probably just popped home to see dear old Mum." "Oh, deserters. We've had some of those too. In the cavalry. What would you call a man who leaves his horse behind?" "An infantryman?" "As for the rest, well, as far as I can see, only 6 or 7 of them went down to definite enemy action. 3 men got stabbed in alleyways, for example." "Sounds like enemy action to me." "Yes, Clive, but you were born in Quirm." "Only because my mother was visiting her aunt and the coach was late," said the Major, going red. "If you cut me in half, you'd find the Ankh-Morpork written on my heart." "Really? Well, let's hope it doesn't come to that," said Tom. "Anyway, getting murdered in alleyways is just part of life in the big city." "But they were armed men. Swords, helmets. Valuable loot, Clive." "But I thought the city watch took care of the gangs." Tom looked at his friend over the top of his paperwork. "Are you suggesting that we ask for police protection?" "Anyway, there isn't any, not anymore. Some of the watchmen are with us, for what good they are, and the rest either got beaten up or ran away. More deserters. Frankly, Clive, everyone's drifting away so fast that by tomorrow we'll be feeling pretty lonely." The men paused as the corporal brought in some more messages. They thumbed through them gloomily. "Well, it's gone quiet anyway," said the Major. "Supper time," said the Captain. The Major threw up his hands. "This isn't war. A man throws a rock, walks around the corner, and he's an upstanding citizen again. There's no rules." The Captain nodded. Their training hadn't covered this sort of thing. They'd studied maps of campaigns with broad sweeping plains and the occasional patch of high ground that had to be taken. Cities were to be laid siege to or defended. They weren't for fighting in. You couldn't see, you couldn't group, you couldn't maneuver, and you were also always going to be up against people who knew the place like their own kitchen. And you definitely didn't want to fight an enemy that had no uniform. "Where's your lordship?" said the Captain. "Gone to the ball, same as yours." "And what were your orders, may I ask?" "He told me to do whatever I considered necessary to carry out our original objectives." "Did you write that down?" "No." "Pity. Neither did mine." They looked at one another. And then Wrangle said, "Well, there's no actual unrest at the moment. As such. My father said all this happened in his time. He said it's best just to keep the lid on it. There's only a limited number of cobblestones, he said." "It's almost 10, said the Major. "People will be going to bed soon, surely." Their joint expression radiated the fervent hope that it had all calmed down. No one in their right mind wanted to be in a position where he was expected to do what he thought best. "Well, Clive, provided there's no—" the Captain began. There was a commotion outside the tent, and then a man stepped inside. He was blood-stained and smoke-blackened, his face lined with pink where sweat had trickled through the dreadful grime. A crossbow was slung across his back, and he'd acquired a bandolier of knives. And he was mad. The Major recognised the look. The eyes were too bright, the grin too fixed. "Oh, right," he said, and removed a large brass knuckle duster from his right hand. "Sorry about your sentry, gentlemen, but he didn't want to let me in even though I gave him the password. Are you in charge?" "Who the hell are you?" said the Major, standing up. The man seemed unimpressed. "Carcer, Sergeant Carcer," he said. "A sergeant? In that case, you can—" "From Cable Street," Carcer added. Now the Major hesitated. Both the soldiers knew about the unmentionables, although if asked, they probably wouldn't have been able to articulate exactly what it was that they knew. Unmentionables worked in secret, behind the scenes. They were a lot more than just watchmen. They reported directly to the patrician. They had a lot of pull. You didn't mess with them. They were not people to cross. It didn't matter that this man was only a sergeant. He was an unmentionable. And what was worse, the Major realised that the creature could see what he was thinking and was enjoying the view. "Yeah," said Carcer, "that's right. And it's lucky for you that I'm here, soldier boy." Soldier boy, thought the Major. And there were men listening who'd remember that. Soldier boy. "How so?" he asked. "While you and your shiny soldiers have been prancing around chasing washerwomen," said Carcer, pulling up the tent's only vacant chair and sitting down, "the real trouble's been happening down in Treacle Mine Road. You know it." "What are you talking about? We haven't had any reports about any disturbances down there, ma'am." "Yeah, right. Don't you think that's strange?" The Major hesitated. A vague memory bobbed at the back of his mind, and there was a grunt from the captain, who pushed a piece of paper across to him. He glanced at it and recalled. "One of my captains was down there this afternoon and said everything was under control," he said. "Really? Whose control?" said Carcer. He leaned back in his chair and put his boots on the desk. The Major stared at them, but the boots showed no sign of embarrassment. "Remove your feet from my desk," he said coldly. Carcer's eyes narrowed. "You and whose army?" he said. "Mine, as a matter of fact." The Major looked into Carcer's eyes and wished he hadn't. Mad. He'd seen eyes like that on the battlefield. Very slowly, with exaggerated care, Carcer swung his feet off the table. Then he pulled out a handkerchief made grimy with unguessable humours, huffed theatrically on the wood, and polished it industriously. "I do beg your pardon so very much," he said. "However, while you gentlemen have been keeping your desks nice and clean, a canker, as they say, is eating at the very heart of the city. Has anyone told you that the Cable Street watch house has been burnt to the ground? With, we believe, the loss of the lives of poor Captain Swing and at least one of our technical people." "Swing, by gods," said Captain Wrangle. "That is what I said. All the scum your lads have been driving out of Dolly's sisters and all the other nests, well, they've ended up down there." The Major looked at the report. "But our patrol said that everything seemed to be in hand. The watch were very visible on the streets and people were showing the flag and singing the national anthem," he said. "There you are then," said Carcer. Do you ever sing the national anthem in the street, Major? Well, no. Who did his lordship send down there? Said Wrangle. Major Mountjoy Standfast thumbed through his papers. His face fell. Rust, he said. Oh dear, that's a blow. I dare say the man is dead, said Carcer, and the Major tried not to look slightly more cheerful. The person in charge down there now calls himself Sergeant Keel, but he is an imposter. The real Keel is in the mortuary. How do you know all this? Said the Major. We in the particulars have ways of finding things out, said Carcer. I've heard, murmured the captain. Martial law, gentlemen, means that the military comes to the aid of the civil power, said Carcer. And that's me right now. Of course, you could send a couple of runners up to the ball, but I don't reckon that would be a good career move. So what I'm asking is for your men to assist us with a little surgical strike. The Major stared at him. There was now no limit to the distaste he had for Carcer. But he hadn't been a major for very long, and when you've just been promoted, you hope to stay that way long enough for the braid to get a tarnish. He forced himself to smile. You and your men have had a long day, Sergeant, he said. Why don't you go along to the mess tent while I consult with my fellow officers? Carcer stood up with a suddenness that made the Major flinch, then leaned forward with his knuckles on the desk. You do that, Sonny Jim, he said with a grin like the edge of a rusty saw. Then he turned and strode out into the night. In the silence that followed, Wrangle said, His name is on the list of officers that Swing sent us yesterday, I'm afraid. And he's technically correct about the law. You mean we have to take orders from him? No, but he's entitled to request assistance from you. Am I entitled to refuse? Oh, yes, of course. But I'd have to tell his lordship why. Exactly. But that man's an evil bastard. You know the sort. The kind that joins up for the pillaging. The kind you have to end up hanging as an example to the men. What now? Well, he's right about one thing. I've been looking at the reports and, well, it's odd. It's all been very quiet down towards Treacle Mine Road. That's good, isn't it? It's unbelievable, Clive, when you put it all together. Even the watch house didn't get attacked, it says here. And your Captain Burns says he met this Keel chap, or someone who said he was Keel, and he says that if the man's a watch sergeant, then he, Burns, is a monkey's uncle. He says the man is used to serious command. I think he rather took to him, to tell you the truth. Ye gods, Tom, I need some help here, said the Major. Then send out gallopers right away. A little informal patrolling, perhaps. Get some proper intelligence. You could afford to wait half an hour. Right, good idea, said the Major, steaming with relief. See to it, could you? After the flurry of orders, he sat back and stared at the map. Some things at least made sense. All these barricades looked inward. People were barricading themselves against the palace and the centre of the city. No one would be bothered much about the outside world. If you had to take an outlying part of the city in those circumstances, then the thing to do would be to go in via a gatehouse in the city wall. They might not be so guarded as they ought to be. Tom. Yes, Clive? Have you ever sung the national anthem? Oh, lots of times, sir. I don't mean officially. You mean just to show I'm patriotic? Good gods, no. That would be a rather odd thing to do, said the captain. And how about the flag? Well, obviously I salute it every day, sir. But you don't wave it at all? The major inquired. I think I waved a paper one a few times when I was a little boy. Patrician's birthday or something. We stood in the streets as he rode by and we shouted hurrah. Never since then? Well, no, Clive, said the captain, looking embarrassed. I'd be very worried if I saw a man singing the national anthem and waving the flag, sir. It's really a thing foreigners do. Really? Why? We don't need to show we're patriotic, sir. I mean, this is Ankh-Morpork. We don't have to make a big fuss about being the best, sir. We just know. It was a beguiling theory that might have arisen in the minds of Wiglet and Waddy, and yes, even in the not overly exercised mind of Fred Colon. And as far as Vimes could understand it, it went like this. 1. Supposing the area behind the barricades was bigger than the area in front of the barricades, right? 2. Like, sort of, it had more people in it and more of the city, if you follow me. 3. Then, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarge, but that would mean, in a manner of speaking, we are now in front of the barricades. Am I right? 4. Then, as it were, it's not like we're rebelling, is it? Because there's more of us, so the majority can't rebel. Stands to reason. 5. So that makes us the good guys. Obviously, we've been the good guys all along, but now it'd be kind of official, right? Like, mathematical. 6. So we thought we'd push on to Short Street and then we could nip down into Dimwell and up the other side of the river. 7. Are we going to get in trouble for this, Sarge? 8. You're looking at me in a funny way, Sarge. 9. Sorry, Sarge. Vimes, with an increasingly worried Fred Colon in front of him, and some of the other barricadiers standing around as if caught in an illicit game of knocking on doors and running away, thought about this. The men watched him carefully, in case of explosion. And it actually made a weird kind of logic, if you didn't factor in considerations like real life and common sense. They'd worked hard. It was easy enough to block a city street, heavens no. You just nailed planks around a couple of wagons and piled it high with furniture and junk. That took care of the main streets, and with enough pushing, you could move it forwards. As for the rest, it really hadn't been that hard. There had been lots of small barricades in any case. The lads had simply joined them up. Without anyone really noticing, the People's Republic of Treacle Mine Road now occupied almost a quarter of the city. Vimes took a few deep breaths. Fred, he said. Yes, Sarge? Did I tell you to do this? No, Sarge. There's too many alleys. There's too many people, Fred. Colon brightened. Oh, well, there's more coppers too, Sarge. A lot of the lads found their way here. Good lads too. And Sergeant Dickens, he knows about this stuff. He remembers the last time this happened, Sarge. So he asked every able-bodied man who knows how to use a weapon to muster up, Sarge. There's a lot of them, Sarge. We got an army, Sarge. This is how the world collapses, thought Vimes. I was just a young fool. I didn't see it like this. I thought Keel was leading the revolution. I wonder if that's what he thought too. But I just wanted to keep a few streets safe. I just wanted to keep a handful of decent, silly people away from the dumb mobs and the mindless rebels and the idiot soldiery. I really, really hoped we could get away with it. Maybe the monks were right. Changing history is like damming a river. It'll find its way round. He saw Sam beaming among the men. Hero worship, he thought. That sort of thing can turn you blind. Any trouble? He said to Colon. Don't think anyone's worked out what's happening here, Sarge. There's been a lot happening around Dolly Sisters and over that way. Cavalry charges and what have you. Hold on, here comes some more. A watchman had signalled from the top of the barricade. Vimes heard the commotion on the other side of the pile. More people running away from Dolly Sisters by the look of it, said Colon. What do you want us to do, Sarge? Keep them out, thought Vimes. We don't know who they are. We can't let everyone in. Some of them will be trouble. The trouble is, I know what's going on out there. The city is a little slice of hell, and there's no real safety anywhere. And I know what I'm going to decide, because I watch me decide it. I don't believe this. I'm standing over there now, a kid who's still clean and pink and full of ideals, looking at me as if I'm some kind of hero. I don't dare not be. I'm going to make the stupid decision because I don't want to look bad in front of myself. Try explaining that to anyone who hasn't had a couple of drinks. All right, let them through, he said. But no weapons. Pass the word around. Take weapons off people, said Colon. Think about it, Fred. We don't want unmentionables in here, do we? Or soldiers in disguise. A man's got to be vouched for before he can carry arms. I ain't going to be stabbed in the back and the front at the same time. Oh, and Fred, I don't know if I can do this, and it probably won't last, but as far as I'm concerned, you're promoted to sergeant. Anyone who wants to argue about the extra stripe, tell him to argue with me. Fred Colon's chest, already running to fat, swelled visibly. Right, Sarge. Does that mean I still take orders from you? Right. I still take orders from you. Right. Don't move any more barricades. Fill up the alleys. Hold the line. Vimes, you come with me. I'll need a runner. I'm pretty runny, Sarge, Nobby volunteered from somewhere behind him. Then what I want you to do, Nobby, is get out there and find out what's happening now. Sergeant Dickens turned out to be younger than Vimes remembered, but he was still close to retirement. He'd maintained a flourishing sergeant's moustache, waxed to points and clearly dyed, and the proper sergeant shape, occasioned by means of undisclosed corsetry. He'd spent a lot of time in the regiments, Vimes recalled, although he came from Plamados originally. The men found that out because he belonged to some druid religion so strict they didn't even use standing stones. And they were strongly against swearing, which is a real handicap in a sergeant. Or would be if sergeants weren't so good at improvising. He was currently in Welcome Soap, a continuation of Cable Street. And he had the army. It wasn't much of one. No two weapons were exactly alike, and most of them were not, strictly speaking, weapons. Vimes shuddered when he saw the crowd and had a flashback, which was probably a flash forward, to all the domestic disputes he'd attended over the years. You knew where you were with strictly speaking weapons when they came at you. It was the not strictly speaking ones that scared the khaki out of a new recruit. It was the meat cleavers tied to poles. It was the long spikes and the meat hooks. This was, after all, the area of small traders, porters, butchers, and longshoremen. And so, standing in raggedy lines in front of Vimes were men who, every day, peacefully and legally, handled things with blades and spikes that made a mere sword look like a girl's hat pin. There were classic weapons too. Men had come back from wars with their sword or their halberd. Weapons? God bless you, sir, no. Them's mementos. And the sword had probably been used to poke the fire, and the halberd had done duty as a support for one end of the washing line, and their original use had been forgotten. Until now. Vimes stared at the metalwork. All this lot would have to do to win a battle would be to stand still. If the enemy charged them hard enough, he'd come out the other side as mince. Some of them are retired watchmen, sir, Dickens whispered. A lot of them have been in the regiments at one time or another, see? There's a few kids wanting to see action, you know how it is. What do you think? I'd certainly hate to fight them, said Vimes. At least a quarter of the men had white hair, and more than a few were using their weapons as a means of support. Come to that, I'd hate to be responsible for giving them an order. If I said about turn to this lot, it'd be raining limbs. They're resolute, sir. Fair enough. But I don't want a war. Oh, it won't come to that, sir, said Dickens. I've seen a few barricades in my time. It generally ends peaceful. The new man takes over, people get bored, everyone goes home, see? But Winder is a nutter, said Vimes. Tell me one that wasn't, sir, said Dickens. Sir, thought Vimes. Or sir, at least. And he's older than me. Oh well, I might as well be good at it. Sergeant, he said, I want you to pick 20 of the best, men that have seen action, men you can trust, and I want them down at the shambling gate and alert. Dickens looked puzzled. But that's bad, sir. And it's right down behind us, it is. I thought maybe down at the gate, Sergeant, Vimes insisted. They're to watch for anyone sneaking up to unbar it. And I want the guards on the bridges to be strengthened. Put down caltrops on the bridge, string wires. I want anyone who tries to come at us over the bridge to have a really bad time, understand? You know something, sir, said Dickens with his head on one side. Let's just say I'm thinking like the enemy, shall we? Said Vimes. He took a step closer and lowered his voice. You know some history, Di. No one with an ounce of sense goes up against a barricade. You find the weakness. There's other gates down there, sir, said Dickens doubtfully. Yes, but if they take shambling, they get into Elm Street and have a nice long gallop right into where we're not expecting them, said Vimes. But You are expecting them, sir. Vimes just gave him a blank look, which sergeants are quite good at deciphering. As good as done, sir, said Dickens happily. But I want a decent presence at all the barricades, said Vimes, and a couple of patrols that can go wherever there's trouble. Sergeant, you know how to do it. Right, sir. Dickens saluted smartly and grinned. He turned to the assembled citizenry. All right, you shower, he yelled. Some of you has been in a regiment, I know it. How many of you knows all the little angels? A few of the more serious class of mementos rose in the air. Very good. Already we has a choir. Now, this is a soldier's song, see? You don't look like soldiers, but by the gods, I'll see you sounds like 'em. We'll pick it up as we goes along. Right turn, march. Oh, the little angels, rise up, rise up. Oh, the little angels, rise up high. Sing it, you sons of mothers. The marchers picked up the response from those who knew it. How do they rise up, rise up, rise up? How do they rise up high? They rise heads up, heads up, heads up, sang out Dickens as they turned the corner. Vimes listened as the refrain died away. That's a nice song, said young Sam, and Vimes remembered that he was hearing it for the first time. It's an old soldier's song, he said. Really, Sarge? But it's about angels. Yes, thought Vimes. And it's amazing what bits those angels cause to rise up as the song progresses. It's a real soldier's song, sentimental with dirty bits. As I recall, they used to sing it after battles, he said. I've seen old men cry when they sing it, he added. Why? It sounds cheerful. They were remembering who they were not singing it with, thought Vimes. You'll learn. I know you will.
Hey. Rise up, rise up.
Really sad ending. Aww.
Yeah.
Oh, Bracken.
Remembering who they weren't singing it with.
Why did you end it there?
There's the page count. There's the page count.
Can you imagine hearing a song for the first time that means something to you with your younger self who is hearing that song for the first time? You know what I mean?
At least he could appreciate it when he was younger. You know, like when you reflect on your younger self and you realize that you didn't have such great taste in music.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I actually had an experience the last before lockdown, like when I was in the gym. I had an experience that was obviously not that, but felt weirdly close to it. Of like, I had like my shuffle playlist thing on, and a track came on that was my dad when he was like 25, singing "A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall," which meant that I was like there listening to a younger, like my dad, younger than me, singing "So Where Have You Gone, My Blue-Eyed Son." It was very odd.
Oh God,
Wow.
Did you cry? I would have cried. I might cry now.
My eyes were sweating very hard, yeah.
Jeez, man. God, yeah. Powerful stuff. We were like, when was it? It was a couple of days ago, we were in the kitchen having like a very nice, perfectly nice time, having lunch, doop-de-doop, everything is lovely, and
Random
like
playlist.
random playlist on. and Bloom by the Paper Kites came on, which was like the first dance at my wedding, and I just like lost it immediately. I was like, oh no, it's this one. Zach was like,
shall I skip
are you
this
okay?
one?
I was like, like weird how music can do that. Like, I think more than any other thing.
Music has this way of just like setting emotions in motions, whether or not you necessarily want it to.
Smell also does that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Smell, vastly underappreciated and underestimated sense for capturing and bringing back memories. Every so often, I enter somebody's house and it smells like my aunt and uncle's house, who are very, very cool and who I haven't seen for many, many a year. And they live down in Shrewsbury, so I didn't spend a lot of time in their house when I was a kid. But I couldn't possibly say what this smell was. It's not like, oh yes, their house smelled of this particular thing. But every so often I'll walk into someone's house and be like, oh my God, whatever the fuck your house smells of.
Interesting.
Smells of... That's not an interesting story. I might just cut that from the recording. Future Frankie, this is
I
your...
liked it. Smells are weird. And people's... I have a friend... Hello. Sorry.
What an entrance.
This is a room. I'm doing... Hello, sorry, but I'm here for that. I have a friend who I've known for 20 years, and I once found a jumper first 20 years later was like, oh, the smell. So yes for odd smells following us.
Are you
gardening in the dark?
Are you inside an organ?
I am deciding that 10 o'clock is a good time to finish the gardening that I started earlier. So
good decision.
Yes,
I'm a big fan of that.
Is that on the balcony?
On the balcony, which basically involves actually spooning with a kitchen spoon compost into a pot. So,
Liz,
yeah.
I love
Yay.
you so much.
Kitchen utensils are great for gardening.
Thank you. Thank you for validating that, because I feel full of shame that I don't have a kit.
Yeah, they work.
Liz, you're so fucking great.
Sorry.
You're so fucking great.
Thank you. I'm really sorry for coming in here and then just disrupting it with my garden.
Don't apologize for that. Can I give Zach a kiss for you to pass on?
Yes.
There you go. You're all witnesses.
Nice and stored. There you go.
Okay, I look forward to receiving that kiss. Ooh, 2 days away? 1 day away?
2 days.
2 days, hurrah.
Oh, let's say goodbye to the catch-up crew, and then I might vanish off because I have to do running around and packing things.
Yes.
But before you do, 8. Did I say yes? 8 lucky humans. No, 9 lucky humans could still own a Storytime spoon. You would like to own one of these bespoke spoons, which say, "Are you sitting comfortably on?" Then
how much are they again, Casey?
Pardon?
How much are they?
They're £5 plus postage, which is like
oh yes, please.
70p.
Can I pay for one next month because I've had a bad month?
Yes, message me with address and stuff.
Oh, great. Yes, please, I'm in.
You can also buy them as gifts for other Storytime people.
Yes. Yes.
Do you have the list of who has one so that we could know who might like a gift and who has purchased one themselves?
I can tell you if you tell me who you want to buy one for, whether they have already purchased one, yes.
Cool.
You could also use them as gifts for people who are not from Storytime, and they'll just be a little bit confused.
This is also true. Everyone needs a long-handled spoon for eating things suggestively off.
And are you sitting comfortably is a nice reminder to check in with yourself. Sometimes I am sitting really uncomfortably for long periods of time and just don't fucking realize it. And then I move and I'm like, ugh.
Lyric, you're so wholesome. You're so lovely and wholesome. What a lovely, wholesome human you are.
Good.
That was not the response I expected to like as a sound.
Well.
So what are you getting?
Eat it up with a big spoon, my darling. Right, now, catch-up crew.
Bye.
Catch up.
Sorry.
Thackeray. Catch-up crew. Love you much. Kisses. Kisses for the catch-up crew.